Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, and we are back, round two.
Cool.
Let's talk about tactical athlete training. This one kind of hits near and dear. Being here at the outside of Fort Bragg, we get a lot of athletes coming in for various courses, training for that, and they will have their own strength coach back home doing their best guess attempt, or it's shared knowledge from friends who were successful going through those things. And one of the things that I typically see is people are doing just too much, right? They're doing too much running, they're doing too much rucking, and they're just beating their bodies down. It's what I did, right? Like a lot of us, we didn't know any better. So when I was training for these things, I was, I was like, hey, I need to run faster. So what is the typical solution to running faster? Run more, right? Which doesn't actually make you run faster. And then it was like, hey, I need to ruck faster. I need to get better at rucking. So what is the typical venue for rucking? It's, hey, you just got to ruck more. And what I'll tell you is, like, these guys don't have a problem. Like, if you're putting yourself there in those positions, you don't have a problem pushing, right? That's not the issue. It's not the issue to these individuals don't need to go hard. And then a lot of the times when I see their programming, when they're coming in, their programming, you talk to their coaches like, hey, what's your philosophy here? Oh, we need to show them how hard they can go, or we need to break them down. Yeah. It's like, no, you don't need to break that down. You're breaking their confidence. So yeah, let's start there.
No, that's huge. I remember a conversation working with, I had some guys that were kind of come in that were, in the community, and a strength coach was, hey, what are you going to do with them? And we're just having some conversation. He's like, if I have I get a guy like that, he's like, I'm going to break him. I'm going to give him this. And it's like, you're going to break him. Well, no, you're not. There's nothing you can do to somebody inside of a gym that's going to break them. Especially someone like who's experienced, who's already worked the job, who's experienced. Like, trust me, they're going to have dealt with way worse than anything you're going to do to them just on the job, right? Psychologically, harder stuff. What's the point of, if you could, which you're not going to, why would you want to break someone? I'm not breaking somebody. My job is to build somebody, mentally and physically, psychologically, build somebody. So you're right. You already have people who've decided to take the hardest route in their career, who are asking for something harder. That's a great mindset to begin with. All I need to do is show them why they can't be stopped. I just need to find out any faults that can be a problem. So, like, if they have to run more, do they have good technique? Do they have poor technique because they have imbalances? Well, let's clear those imbalances. Let's get them run perfectly. The more efficient they move, the less wear and tear they'll have on their body, and the farther they can go because they're moving as efficiently as possible. And so, we have to look at, can they maintain the positions we need to as long as possible? Ideally, I want someone, if you're carrying, your kit, I want you to be able to go any distance required with perfect position. I don't want you leaning forward, not having your hips underneath you because you're exhausted. Because here's the problem what really comes into, in my mind, and you'd be a better expert at this in that sense, is that you have X amount of kit you have to carry. You have whatever distance, whatever inclines, declines, or whatever things you have to deal with that are in your way. You need to maintain perfect positions. I want you to maintain a perfect position until you collapse from exhaustion. I don't want you to get in a bad position and spend 40 to 60% of your time in an inferior position that creates issues. Because we look at people ruck walking as an example, hips, knees, shoulders, right? Low back. Well, the hips, usually a lot of times people end up defaulting to inferior position and they will lean forward more, not have their hips underneath them. Once this happens, they start getting, that's when the low back is susceptible. We start getting tight hips, which causes the IT bands, because they start to tilt, the IT bands tighten up and cause knee issues, right? And so the problem that we have is we have to think of a way to get people to produce force for longer periods of time with least amount of wear and tear possible on the body while doing that.
100%.
Right? And then we have to look at people individually, like, some of it's going to be a strength component, right? Like, we can't have someone who's 100 pound squatter. Like, what's a loadout for amount of weight of stuff you can carry?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends, right?
Yeah.
The standard starting point is a 35-pound dry ruck. And then typically in a selection-based process, you'll work your way up to 50 pounds dry. And that is the key word, dry, because you have to have X amount of water on you. There might be some additional responsibilities, like, hey, you're going to carry the radio equipment, you're going to carry ammo, whatever it is. So that's like the base level starting point. That can work up easily. You're talking about, you got a 1-quart canteen here, you got a 1-quart canteen here, you got 2-quart canteens on the back, and then you got a camel pack. Now you're talking about an additional, 10, 15 pounds of water weight. You add a couple radio batteries, shit gets weird real quick.
Yeah. So you can't have someone with a 100-pound max squat do that. Now, they don't need to be a 1,000-pound squatter. I'd say if they're a 1,000-pound squatter, that's probably hindrances. That's going to be hindrances as well. They're going to require too much oxygen, too much muscle mass. That's going to be an issue. So what we need to do is get someone stronger if they're weak. So if they are a 100, 200-pound squatter, obviously their absolute strength has to come up. Once we get that to an acceptable level and we balance out their body, then we got to get them to produce force for longer periods of time, right? And that's like stuff that I absolutely love. Like what I would do with people in the past is like sled work. So it's like, okay, if you need to get good at rucking and you're doing it, like how many days a week would you do it when you first started in the past?
Oh man, yeah, I was rucking 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay. So to me, it should be ruck once a week.
Yes.
Right? And then the other days, instead of rucking, the days that I would have rucked on, I'm going to do some sled work. And I'm going to walk forward, backwards. I might cut it up to like quarter-mile segments. So like how long would a typical ruck be?
Yeah, so I would do, because again, I was doing what everybody else did. It was a basic linear, progression or, a progressive overload. So I would start at 1 mile, and then the only variability would either be you increase the mileage or you increase the speed.
Yeah.
Right? And then you go a certain distance, and the traditional model, what most Army units are still using to this day, is they'll do it on a 4-week wave. They'll go week number 1, 3 miles. Week number 2, 6 miles. Week number 3, 9 miles. Week number 4, 12-miler. Reset, repeat.
So
yeah.
The problem with that too, though, is the nervous system goes on 3-week waves. So 4-week is not going to work well for
Correct.
them. Okay, so that's already improper setup structurally. Okay, so what you could do, and what I would recommend, is what we did is we would raise the intensity in distance, things like that, of our sled work for 3 weeks. So like, let's say, I'm going to just in a generic way, I'm going to say we pick whatever the distance is on week 1, and we'll do 3 days of that, 1 day of rock walk, because you do have to have your kit on you. You have to get comfortable with straps.
There's some of that SPP, as they would call it, right?
Yep, and you do have to do that. So I don't want to get away from that per se. But the other 3 days, or other 2 days, depending on how many days a week we're doing it, 3 or 4, I'm going to cover a distance where I might do, like, say, a quarter mile walking forward, a quarter mile walking backwards. How I explain it to people is the quarter mile forward, that's your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes. This is driving forward or driving uphill. Walking backwards, great for knee stabilization. It's also great for when you're walking down steep terrain, okay? So with that, we're covering forward and backward. And so what I would do is, like, say, the first 3-week wave, I'm going to take just a sled. And then when I get done, I do a quarter mile forward, and then I'm going to have maybe, like, say I can have a band laying there, and I'm going to do 100 arched around back good mornings.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to walk backward for a quarter mile. And then I'm going to do 100 regular good mornings. And then I'm going to walk, then I'm going to switch direction for another quarter mile. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to constantly change up that stopping point, because what that stopping point's for is that sled forward, we already talked about. Going forward is your calves, hamstrings, glutes. Backward is quads, knee stabilization. The arch to round back good mornings and the regular good mornings are to strengthen the posterior chain, spinal erectors to maintain position so you can keep your hips underneath you to have the most efficient movement while carrying your kit. Like I said, you don't want to lean forward, shorten up your hip flexors, put unneeded stress on your low back because you're fatigued and exhausted. We need to have your hips underneath you so that you can carry your kit in the most efficient way possible. So when I stop, I will do things like that to maintain better back positions. Another thing I would do is like I could use a band to do this. I go to a 45-degree angle and do like a 2-minute hold, isometric hold. I can take sandbags. One thing I do like with sandbags is sometimes what I would do to people is would walk a set distance, grab the sandbag, clean it, and I might do body weight squats with it. And there are step-ups, and so maybe I do, say, 50 step-ups per leg, and then I might turn that into 100 good mornings front-loaded holding the sandbag. I can side load it. I can back load it.
Well, you know, and I like sandbags. Is just a training tool in general because it's readily available. There's a couple things that I like about sandbags. One, there is some utility in loading the fucking thing. So you're doing work just to get the sand into it, and there's sand everywhere you go. Right, especially if you're in the military and you find yourself in a desert climate. You know, one of the things we used to have to do as we were initially starting the global war on terrorism in the early days of Iraq, Afghanistan. Before you could go eat in this little tent where the cooks had things set up, you had to fill up 2 sandbags as your ticket into the into lunch, right? And then you came back for dinner, and you had to fill 2 sandbags, and those were all used as force protection measures. So the more sandbags you had, and over time, as we had tons of sandbags stockpiled, we didn't have to keep doing those kind of things. We had the bunkers built out and all that kind of stuff. But you know, sandbags is a really easy tool. It's a very low footprint, so you can fold that thing up, stick it in your backpack, and take it with you anywhere you go. You load the thing. You can do a lot of carries with it. It's an odd object. It mimics what you find in real life. And you know, and the positions that you have to put yourself in to pick it up, it's not like, you know, the military right now is using the Army specifically is using a trap bar deadlift. It's a great, the trap bar deadlift is a great tool to build grip strength, and it mimics carrying loads out to the side. Easy day. But it doesn't mimic the demands for real life. You got a buddy that goes down in front of you. You need to get in a wider stance position, and you need to be able to pick something up from the ground to hip in that shape, so that you can drag that individual out. Well, so a sandbag's a great tool for that. Even like if you have a 2-point sling and you put it underneath the person's arms and you use your rifle to drag a person out, right? Yeah. That's backward sled drag. That's a backward sled drag, yeah. So I mean, you know, a lot of these things have functional utility as well. So while it might not be SPP per se, you know, the things that we do with our tactical athletes really have a lot of carryover. And I'll tell you this, I did all the things the wrong way previously. And, you know, as I started aging out in my career, you know, time waits on no man. We're all, you know, it remains undefeated. Everyone's career is going to come to an end at some point. You know, the goal for me is to extend people's longevity in their career so that they can do the things that they want to do for as long as possible. You know, the government spent millions of dollars on me, you know, giving me this kind of training, and they spend millions of dollars on these guys here in the gym. And, you know, the goal is to make sure that they get a good return on their investment. And, you know, at the end of the day, that means that those guys stay in the fight longer. So when I was young, I could ruck all day long. I could run all day. I could do all those things, and I could get better as I got older. The wear and tear on joints, especially from, you know, jumping out of airplanes, being blown up a couple times, the means of the tactical lifestyle, the inconsistency in sleep patterns, and all those things all start to take a wear and tear in your body. When you're 19, you can slam, you know, 24 beers and go run a 5 mile, and you're fine. And plus, you could do it, but what if you could have moved more weight faster, or moved faster as long as you moved before, 100%. Right? So, you know... Well, that's what's happening now, and that's the cool thing, is I got to a point to where that was no longer available to me. Started working with you. You know, the thing with the community that I was in, bunch of very intelligent individuals, and, you know, they'll have questions about things. Like, I had questions, but I wasn't questioning the system. I just wanted to understand it so that I could implement it. Which and once you should question. Yeah, and once I started implementing it, though, it was a no-brainer for me, because now I'm doing things at the level I was when I was younger, with more wear and tear in my body, and I'm doing it more efficiently, so it's easier to do, and I'm able to go longer with less effort. And, when you think about, your return on investment, you spent millions of dollars on this thing. You don't want it to just work for 2 years. You want it to work for 20 years, maybe even beyond.
So now where you're at as a strength coach. Now if you could take the knowledge you had and went back when you were younger, you would have been more capable. Even though you're a stud and doing stuff at a high
100%.
level, but you've been more capable.
Well, it just goes back to the same thing that we talked about with athletes. It's like, hey, just because that ball sport athlete is performing at a high level, doesn't mean they couldn't do better.
And now you level up the whole team like that.
Right.
And now what's that team capable of doing?
Well, and this is the interesting thing, too, is like when you get around, because it's small team environments, at a certain level in the military, and everyone knows what you're doing. At this point, they know, this person's, squatting this way and this person's deadlifting this way and it looks different. And they're spending a lot of time on this weird reverse hyper thing over there in the corner, and they're doing a lot of GHD work.
So they're going to see what your outcome is.
And then they start seeing the outcome, and then all of a sudden everybody else starts mimicking what you're doing and not knowing why.
Yep.
But they're also getting the benefits of it, and then they start asking questions. And, before long, it was everybody was training like this that I was around, and they were all getting the benefits of it. And it was really cool to see that cascade, that trickle effect, because I'll tell you this, people at a high level, doesn't matter if it's in the military, if it's in a ball sport, if it's in a barbell sport, if you're going to be at a high level and you want to remain at a high level, you only care about what works.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the nice thing about the system, is not just built to acquire the output needed, it's to last as long as possible. It's always been designed to last as long as possible, which is huge. So, when I was talking about that sled work, you can constantly change the distances in between when you do the things for maintaining position or posterior chain work. The step-ups are, once in a while you're going to have to step up onto things. You're going to have to step down to things, so stairs, and because stepping over logs, and there's there's terrain to deal with, right? So that step-ups are good for that. The spinal erector work, that's all to maintain position. And then what I would do is I'd do 1 week of 3 different distances: short, heavy, medium at a medium weight, and then longer would be a lighter weight but a longer sled drag. And then the next week I would do those same things but add ankle weights, and I would do a week of that. And then the next week I would have ankle weights and a weight vest. Nice. Or my pack on me, right? And then the 4th week, so it's because it's a 3-week wave, not a 4-week, because your nervous system goes in 3-week cycles. Then I'm going to go back to no ankle weights and no kit, right? So that's where you get some breaks, but you train different things. The ankle weights help with your hip flexor strength. They help with low back, because every time when you wear ankle weights, when you pick up the foot with the weight on it, your midline has to stabilize, right, to hold that weight there. So when you're looking at your obliques, abs, spinal erectors get tight, and it's really good for low back health, since there's so many low back issues in the military. Things like that help. And that is just for, that's kind of a conditioning tool. It'll strengthen you for producing force for longer periods of time.
Right.
And then when we look at we can still do our strength work. We should do our strength work, because at the same time, strength and speed's still needed.
100%.
Right? So we raise our absolute strength, we get our speed up, we produce force for longer periods of time, which means we can go farther, go longer. And those sled drags and stuff are great for recovery anyway. They just dump a bunch of blood into your legs and help you recover. And then our accessories, we still use accessories like a powerlifter, right? But we change our rep scheme to what's needed. So let's say at first with him, I need a strength up and need a little bit more muscle mass, right? Then I can give the optimal numbers, maybe upper body is 8 to 12 reps, lower body can be the 15 to 25 rep range. But let's say his absolute strength is awesome. We get it to where we need it. His leverages are great. I don't want any more body weight on him. I can eventually get some of those accessory movements to 100, 200 reps. And now we got a guy who's strong, but who can produce this kind of output for a very long period of time. So my accessories, the repetition scheme is based on what someone needs. If he already comes in with high absolute strength, I can skip, and he has good muscle mass, and I don't want any more muscle mass on him, I'm not going to give him accessories at a rep scheme that is optimal for muscle mass. I'm going to give it to him for more, to be able to produce that force for longer periods of time, more and more repetitions, because that's going to be more usable.
100%. And, I've taken that and kind of templated it into a model that over the past decade, I can tell you that I've produced, not me produce, this process has helped produce thousands of special operators in various different fields and various different branches. And I'm fortunate enough to where, directly across the street, that's where most of the training goes down. This is very publicly wide known. So these guys come here because we've built up a reputation for helping people be successful. And it's, when people first start off, they're like, that's it? And I'm like, that's it. But we're going to do this and we're going to do it well. And every single time what ends up happening is as they go through the process, whether it's a selection or it's the qualification courses, these guys start off in the middle of the pack. And then as the thing goes on, they're slowly progressing towards the forward of the pack. I don't need you to start the race in the front of the race and then taper off after the first third. I need you to be progressively building. So those guys that are exclusively focusing on endurance and not strength, they're going to start off very strong. Then you're going to add some load to them. Their body's going to begin to break down, and then they're going to see, the adverse effects of that. And what I'll tell you is our program, our process is pretty simple. We have sled drags 2 to 3 times a week. We have reverse hyper every single day because I need to strengthen their lower back so that they can carry loads. They have 1 ruck a week, and we don't do it on hardball.
Okay.
Because I don't want them to beat their body up. Right down the road here, we got Carver's Creek. Old Rockefeller House is at the end of it. It's a loose sand trail. So they're not only having some load on their shoulders, because you have to get accustomed to that. It sucks, but they're also stabilizing their ankles and they're toughening up their feet at the same time. You can be a very tough individual, but if you haven't put the miles in and your feet aren't, conditioned for that, and you start getting those hot spots become blisters. I remember going through a couple of those courses and looking down and bleeding through my boots because I just hadn't prepared my feet the right way, and then you just got to keep going, and then you find a spot where you can duct tape your feet together, and and so those are the type of individuals that's going into this thing, right? Like that's nothing special. People do that kind of stuff all the time. I want to prevent that from happening. And if it does happen, at least they have the mental fortitude to be able to continue on. But my goal is to prepare all those things. So I'm looking at the feet. I start at the bottom. I'm looking at the feet. How do I toughen their feet up? How do I put the appropriate miles on their feet that doesn't add unnecessary wear and tear, but also stabilize them? I found that walking in loose sand with their boots on does a great job at that. There's going to be a lot of friction and instability. Then I'm working my way at ankles, like you talked about, right? There's going to be a lot of different things. They need to step over things. They need to move laterally. Lateral sled drags are great
full
for that.
articulation out of their ankles so they don't injure them.
So that they don't injure them, right? And that's a problem with military folks that they don't realize is, the military is pretty smart at designing a uniform and a process that works for the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So those boots, those over-the-ankle boots, keep the ankle fixed.
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of dorsiflexion. And the idea there is if they get into a situation where there's any instability, at least the boot provides some kind of level of support.
They can really tighten this.
Yeah, so it's almost acting like an ankle brace. The problem is it acts like an ankle brace.
Yeah. Which shifts the pressure to the knees and the hips.
Yep, so then you work your way up, and it's like, okay, now we need to talk about the knees. So the backward sled dragging is definitely going to help with that. Forward sled dragging, we're going to help with the hips. One of the things I stole from you that I really like is putting the sled strap between the legs so that then you can work the low back, and then you can work the hips for some pull-throughs and things like that.
Sorry, I just had an idea, so we'll say it to you real quick. Whether you put it in here or cut it out, I don't care.
No, go for it.
It would almost be cool if you had a 2-piece boot where you had the bottom shoe without the top sleeve on, right?
Yeah.
And then if you injured your ankle, you could pull it out of your pack and it connected to it, and you could lace it up real tight to work as the brace. Because the problem that you're having is it does slow people down to have that all the time. And it puts so much pressure in the knees and hips. So if someone's done their job and trained correctly, they could get away with that in a lot of situations, But it would be nice to have that 2-piece to add that back on. Yeah. Because I totally get, like, you can cinch that down with, with your
I'm actually starting to get
stuff.
some ideas now. Maybe just even like loosening the top portion up and then tightening down there, tying it off, so that at least they can get some ankle flexion extension while they're walking on that loose. I'm gonna play around with that and I'll let you know.
Yeah, because it's essentially that's the thing. Like you just said, you hit the nail on the head. You lock the ankle down, the pressure's going to go somewhere else.
Has to.
And it has to. Next thing in line is the knees. After that's the hips. If the hips are a problem, if the knees become a problem, the hips are going to become a problem. Hips become a problem, the low back's going to become a problem. That's just
but then it also radiates back down to you look at the way that people, because if it's fixed, it's causing a problem where the ankle's not flexing and extending. Typically, it would rotate a little bit this way, causing plantar fasciitis.
Let's say you're going to have a problem with the feet, though.
Yeah,
because the problem is too is if you limit ankle, your toes aren't going to be mobile enough. So to have a proper gait when you're walking, if you were to hold the top of someone's foot down, they should be able to lift their toes to a 45-degree angle. To have a proper gait while running, your toes should be able to go 90 degrees straight up and down. So if you're limiting the ankle, you're not articulating the toes as much, and you'll start to get stiff toes over an extended period of time.
Well, another thing that happens often too is there really isn't, prior to my buddy Ben's course with Apex, there wasn't really any formalized process when it came to teaching soldiers how to run.
Yeah.
It was more like, hey, you're going to get in this formation, we're going to take off this way, and we're going to run for an extended distance, and you guys are going to sing a fucking song along with me, and that's going to be your block of training. And so when I'm working with people, because I know they're going to run, like you can go out there right now, and I guarantee somebody's on our true form runner. I put them on those, one, because it's less wear and tear, but two, it's going to fix their running technique without me having to spend a tremendous amount of time on talking about their running technique. If you overstride on that thing, it's going to let you know.
Yeah.
You have to keep your feet underneath you, and the only way that you can fix that is by increasing your cadence, i.e. your foot strike speed. Turns out, like when you're talking about pose method, you know, the guy that invented it, another Russian scientist, imagine that. Most problems with that system can just simply be fixed by increasing the cadence. You want to increase the cadence on that, you got to move your feet faster. You overstride, it's going to let you know. You start butt kicking, it's going to let you know. It's going to pull you off the back of it. So like, they truly do end up in that figure four shape, and how high that foot goes is really going to depend on the speed there. So we do all of our long distance runs on that. I'll maybe mix one a month out on the ball, or out on the hard ball, but most of the time I like that because it limits the wear and tear. If they're going to do like sprint style training, I want them to do that on the ground. So we'll do. I take where they're at, and then I take their desired run times, and then I find it somewhere in the middle. Easy math. If somebody wants to run a 6-minute mile, I say, okay, I break that down into 4 400s. That's a 1 minute 30 split time. So you're going to do a 1 minute 30 split time. You're going to get as close as you can to that. I don't want you to go significantly below it. I don't want you to go significantly above it. Plus or minus 5 seconds. If you can learn how to dial that in, then you're going to rest 3 minutes. So it's a 1 to 2 work to rest ratio. Do that 4 times. We increase that over the course of 3 weeks, and then we change it up. And we continue to do that, and then all of a sudden, people who haven't, even if I don't have them running long distance, what ends up happening is they end up getting their first sub 6-minute mile that they've ever gotten by running significantly less, because they're getting their endurance from sled work. They're getting their speed training, because if you run at somebody, that's another thing that pisses me off. You tell somebody like, hey, you want to run faster, you need to run more. Okay, well, the only thing, if you're running a 10-minute mile and you carry that out for the duration of 6-7 miles, congratulations, you've learned how to run slow. Nothing wrong with that. If you're in the endurance community and that's your hobby and that's your passion, and you want to say that you ran a 50-mile race, a 100-mile race, whatever, you're not going to probably run a sub 6-minute mile unless you're Kipchoge, right? Yeah, Kipchoge, only person in the world to have ever unofficially run a sub 2-hour marathon. The dude was moving at a sub 6-minute pace the entire time. You can't put a ruck on that guy's back though, because he would fold.
He'd break.
You know what I mean?
So he doesn't have 1 ounce extra above what he showed. He can just do that for longer than anybody else.
Just longer than anybody else.
But you put weight on him, he'd be.
And so I would like, if we're looking at this power output curve, I would like to have somebody who has high power output, meaning they can lift heavy loads. Right, and then I want them to be in the middle of the pack. I don't need them to set a world record on a 2-mile run, but I need them to be around that 12-minute range, because that's what's going to be demanded of you on the other side of the fence. And the way that we do that is we train speed, not distance. And I find that when we're training distance and duration, sled work gives us that sweet combination where, hey, you're moving long and slow, right? You're also moving heavy ass weight, so it helps with the rucking, it helps with the running, and it bulletproofs the individual, and simultaneously it makes them fucking stronger.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a greater tool when it comes for tactical athletes into doing some long duration heavy ass sled drags.
I agree. I mean, because the thing is, like, you're actually getting better at running without having all the pounding from running. And, you know, there's so many things that gets thrown your way in the military that can beat up your body that you don't need any extra pounding that you don't need to take. You know, like, I mean, like, you don't need to run more than you have to. And I know a lot of people are like, wow, I love to run. It's like, well, would you enjoy to run faster and longer? Like, do you want to just run because you like to run, or do you actually have a goal of improvement?
Which you get nothing wrong with if your goal is just to run. I got a guy, he can squat over 400 pounds, and he runs 50-mile races on a regular. I'm not worried about that guy getting hurt.
Yeah, no.
He's not going to compete in powerlifting. He's also probably not going to be the fastest runner in the world.
He's not weak either.
But he's not fucking weak either, and he can go forever. That's what you want when you talk about a tactical athlete, is somebody that can do both.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is, like, you see a lot of, like, when I talk about ultras, like, I've worked with guys for ultras, and a lot of guys want to be, like, really skinny and lightweight for ultras, and it's like, you know, an ultra takes a lot of energy. Having muscle mass, I've known quite a few, and I've worked with quite a few people who've had good squats and deadlifts, who were actually strong, who were actually muscular and show up, and all of them have always said the same thing. They're like, that extra muscle is just extra fuel for me when I'm not actually eating and ingesting enough food in, that yes, I lose quite a bit of weight after one of these 100-mile races, but I had that muscle mass to kind of convert to energy and utilize if I needed to in a bad situation, you know? And it helps them out, but they don't get hurt. They maintain good positions. You know, you see a lot of, I've worked with ultra guys in the past that were really skinny and typically what you thought one would look like, and they all come in, my back, this, that, like they just have a million problems. And it's like, well, you're fragile. You know, like, look at how much weight, how much force and impact every time you take a step while running, and how many steps do you take over a 100-mile race? That's like bludgeoning. Just like, you know, take a ball peen hammer. I might not break a bone when I hit you. It's kind of softly, but do that for 20 hours and see what that feels like. You know, it's funny. Like Chinese water torture. You know, like it's not easy on you. You know.
So, and you know, I've seen people, you know, I think CrossFit style training is a great venue for tactical athletes when it comes to their GPP. I think there needs to be a little bit more structure. And what I mean by that is if you're doing good CrossFit programming for an affiliate, there is a level of variance, meaning you're not going to do a max effort on this day, a dynamic effort on that day. And the reason that we allow that variance, or that variance is so important in the traditional CrossFit affiliate, is because you don't know if Sally's going to show up on Monday every Monday, right? You don't know if little Susie is going to show up on Wednesday. So if you allow variance, they have exposure to all those things. The things with tactical athletes is it is a part of their job.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about the different jobs, and a lot of people don't realize this in the military. You have a cook, you have administrative personnel, right? You have people who work on computers, people who work on radios. There is basically a civilian equivalent to every single job in the military to some degree. The biggest thing that separates these guys is they have to be fit, right? There's a certain base level of fitness that is required just to get the job. It's the only job that you have to do. One, you have to do an aptitude test. Say, are you at least smart enough to pick out these things? And then you have to do a physical fitness test before you can even start training for your job. Yeah. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, Google being like, okay, hey, Shane, I know you got the degree. You're a great computer programmer, but I'm going to need you to take this other test over here, completely unrelated, just to make sure you're not a moron. After that, I'm also going to have to make sure that you go through this physical evaluation where they check you from head to toe and make sure everything's okay. Yeah. And then after that, we're going to have you do a 2-mile run just to make sure that your base level of fitness that you're coming in with is at a starting point that we can work with.
I wish all jobs would do that.
Yeah, it would be great, right? We you know, America.
Healthcare.
Yeah, health. The you know, 70% of our healthcare spend is on fucking comorbidities, preventative illnesses. So if we all did that,
if every business did that, with the amount of tax money going in the healthcare system anyway, we would have universal healthcare.
100%.
That'd be the
you know,
only thing
but
you
like
need to
that's
do.
the funny thing about it too is like
Then you have a bunch of people who wouldn't need
no
it.
other job does that. So and then there's one other thing, they have to qualify in the weapon system, right? Like outside of that, their job is like a normal fucking job.
Yeah.
Every job to some degree has some kind of uniform standard, right? You just can't walk into IBM in flip flops, right? You're probably going to be in khakis with some dress shoes or something like that. So they have a uniform. Military has a uniform. The separating factor is these guys have to work out. So when you're talking about programming for tactical athletes, there does need to be structure there.
Yeah.
And there needs to be more variance than what you think or what is readily available to these guys. And, you know, just because they don't have certain equipment readily available to them, they will find a way to get to that equipment, to do that training. And true variance doesn't mean that we mix up the structure.
Yeah.
True variance means that, hey, we've found a deficiency in Shane's squat.
Yeah.
Now, how many different ways can I attack his squat to make everything else better?
Yeah.
And maybe we have Shane go wide this week. Maybe we have him go a little bit more narrow. Maybe we have him squat to a higher box. Maybe we squat to a lower box. Maybe we change up the bar. Maybe we put something unstable on it.
Yeah.
You know, like some chains. Maybe, you know, there's a lot of different variations that you can do for that individual to attack those things. Just having them do the same patterns over and over again.
Yep.
You've said this 1,000 times. Repetitive motion injuries aren't just for factory workers. So if you have a tactical athlete who has a mindset of, I'm going to get through this, and you're giving them basically the same exercises with little to no variance, they are going to get hurt.
Look at some of the units out there, the shooting drills they do, and how much time they spend in shooting, how many repetitions they do, and we're
Ad nauseum.
yes. And you think of that, and that is like a perfect example, right? Like you do these movements over and over again, but the whole point is not just to do them; it's to optimize them and optimize the pattern. And so, like even like we use like bands, and we talk about instability and stuff like that. And one thing like that's great is the number one thing, strength-wise, that tactical athletes need is posterior chain, which we're known to be the best in the world at posterior chain. We work
100%.
attack posterior chain harder than anybody. And so posterior chain is extremely important. But even for me, in like competition shooting, and I've done stuff like I'll train with my rifle or my pistol, and I hang a band with little weight sandbags. And when I train, it's try to minimize the movement of that barrel or minimize the movement on my sights with, like when I use a pistol, I just hang it from my arm. And it's just a tiny little like 1 pound, 2 pound, sandbags. And it has made me so much more stable instead of just doing the regular thing, So we just mess with a lot of kind of stuff, but in training, in that instability, like if we squat with hanging kettlebells and it wants to swing, we got to tighten our midline and erase that movement. And it's things like that that does go a long way.
Some of the criticism that I've gotten from other strength coaches in the space is, hey, I think you are taking these individuals to a wide stance position too often. They're doing too much overhead pressing. And it's like, okay, that's because you've never done the thing or cared to even understand what's going on. But I'm telling you, if you have to pick something up off the ground, it's probably not going to be out to the sides like this. It's probably not going to be directly out in front of them. You're probably going to have to get over top of it. It would be a great time to figure out if the knees collapse in a controlled environment. Then when it matters and somebody's life's on the line, those knees collapse, and then now they're out of the fight, and they were supposed to be getting somebody else out of a bad situation. Now you got two people in a bad situation.
Well, here's my problem with that. I love that. I hear that all the time. Well, they don't need to go that wide that often. Really? Because everything they do is narrow. You show me 90+% of strength coaches have people narrow stance squat, conventional deadlift only. A lot of them even say, don't do sumo. Sumo's worthless.
Sumo adds the most bang for the buck when it comes to a tactical athlete.
Yeah, and the thing is, we need a wide stance. One, it's because almost everything we do, like even if you look at CrossFit, this is not knocking CrossFit, but if you're running, you're close stance. If you're doing lunges, you're close stance. If you're doing clean and jerk, you're close stance. What I'm getting at is 90+% of everything we do is close stance. But we need people to be good at wider. We need strong hips. We need good lateral movement. And we're not, most of the time, people aren't doing anything for lateral movement or to get them better at lateral movement. And that's my issue is like, where's the lateral movement come in? Where's the hip function? Where's the hip strength come in? You know, we always talk about hip strength is so important with athletes, you know, but yet all these strength coaches out there say do narrow stance, and they're doing everything to avoid the hips. They don't do anything for the hips hardly.
And they don't do any rotational work either with a tactical athlete, which is really funny because, you know, we have these stupid things that we do where basically we'll get in 2 straight lines if we want to load something up pretty quickly.
No.
There's somebody standing on top of an LMTV, which if you were to stand next to it, you would probably be reaching up full arm's length to pass it up overhead. And they take an object from over here, they pass it to the next person, who passes it to this person, who then again grabs it and passes it, and then the person over there is pushing it up, and then there's somebody on the other end of that LMTV in a wide stance position, reaching down, taking their back to flexion.
Doing a deficit sumo deadlift?
Doing a deficit sumo deadlift, picking it up, shouldering it, and then moving it to the back of the object and doing it repetitively. And if you don't fucking train that in a very structured environment, that individual is going to get fucked up.
So weird. Sumo deadlifts, arch around back, good morning, something like that. Has nothing to do with that. Rotational, oblique work, nothing to do with that.
And it's like, you can't tell me, like, out of all the shit that the military has provided and bought and, like, all the different loadouts, I'll say this. It's gotten better since when I first came in, but you can't tell me that a fucking band can't be a standard issue item for every soldier. Like, they're so cheap. Yeah. They're so cheap, and the utility.
And you can take it anywhere.
You can take it anywhere. Even if they only fucking stretched with it, it would add value. You know, like,
100%.
but obviously you could do way more than that. You could do your hamstring curls. You could do your arched around backs. You could do your pull aparts. You could do your push downs. You can fucking if you needed it, hey, it's a tourniquet. It's ready to go. You know, like it's funny you say that too because like no shit. Buddy of mine who is special operations community out with a different style of voodoo floss because he saw the utility and value in that. I don't go anywhere, whether it was to the field, whether it was to a selection program process, whatever. I always had some voodoo floss on me. You know, the immediate obvious is like, hey, you're gonna compress some tissue and like try to speed up the trauma recovery. It's like nature's form of blood doping, right? It prompts the lymphatic system to do its job, very simply put, brings in the groceries, takes out the garbage. But man, you can anchor this fucking thing. You can do banded push downs with it. You can do banded pull aparts with it. You can tie it in a knot and do hamstring curls with it. I've done all that. And I'll tell you, like, people thought I was nuts.
Hip distractions, you can do anything with it.
People thought I was nuts at selection. I had this, and I tied a knot in it, and I wrapped it around the bottom of the bunk, and I was doing banded hamstring curls after every time we rucked.
We should,
And I was pushing blood, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm trying to speed up recovery." And they're like, "That doesn't make any sense." And then, guess what? I fucking went to the bathroom, I came back, everybody else was doing it. And all of a sudden, now they're moving better, they're feeling better. They're like, wow, I feel so much better, like my hamstrings, like I got blood flow in them. Like, they were like, dude, that last ruck that I did, like I could feel my hamstrings working, and I've never felt my hamstrings work on a ruck before.
That's the thing, like I've heard so many times, like this is a very common thing, like at my gym, we do recuperation methods at the end of every workout that we do. And so what he's talking about is doing like 100, 200 band leg curls after a ruck walk, and you think like that doesn't make sense because I just went for a ruck walk. This is going to flood a ton of blood immediately in the area and to facilitate recovery. Anytime I've ever gone out of town, it is no joke. I'll give programming to some of my clients who I personal train. They will. I'll come back in. How are your workouts? Oh, workouts are great. Man, I am so sore. I'm way more sore when I train by myself than with you. Because I'm like, and every time I ask them, did you do the full programming? I did everything. I didn't have time for the finisher. I left, and I didn't do the 100, 200. They always skip the finisher, and they're always sore. And it's like, you're sore because you didn't do the finisher. You didn't do the recovery, the recuperation.
You know why, though, is because you see that big number at the end, and it's scary, right? But a funny thing happens is if you're doing the finishers, and this is just from my experience here, both myself and as a coach, if you're doing those, that number no longer is scary. It's second nature. Like, I remember when we first started doing the programming here at the gym, every time we would finish off with like 100, 200 or something, they'd be like, what the fuck, that's impossible. And then impossible became normal. And then, you know, because we're in a military town, we have a lot of turnover. People go to other duty stations, etc. they're deploying, clients come in. You can walk out there right now at any given moment and you can tell who the new clients are that just got here, and you can tell the ones who are there because the coach say, all right, we're going to finish off with 100 band pushdowns. Their eyes get this fucking big. Yeah. The members just go grab their bands and they fucking knock them out real quick.
Yeah. It's not even a big deal.
It's not even a big deal.
And when I first went to the West Side, that's kind of how it was. It's like 100 reps. The first time, same thing. Like, you're gonna have like I'm gonna do 100 reps of this. Like, this is ridiculous. And then it was like the first time. Then 100 reps was no big deal. I was like, oh, you're gonna do 200 reps. And sometimes it'd be 100. Sometimes it'd be 200. And so we would do anything. Think about it, like the whole point. And I want this for athletes. When you're talking about military, it's way more important for military than it is for athletes. Because you know what? Really cool if you win a medal. You know, what's the worst that happens? You lose? Well, in the military, you can cost your, you can lose your life, or worse, be the cause of someone else losing their life that didn't have to, right? So the stakes are way higher, so it's really important for the military. But we would do anywhere from 1 to 200 reps, or we do stuff like, okay, you're going to do this tricep extension, here's a weight, you're going to go for 5 minutes. So we do like dumbbell presses for 3 minutes or 5 minutes to see, so you could go the heaviest weight without stopping for that long.
Oh yeah.
Right?
One of the worst things I fucking hate when you program this, and I shouldn't even tell you because it's going to come up more now, is incline barbell jams, 100 reps, hold it at the top every time you stop.
Yep.
I'm like, you motherfucker, that is not a rest position. But again, it's like, all right, hey, I need to get through this because there is no stopping. So if I just hold it here, like, what is the alternative? Mm-hmm. You got to fucking go again. Like, that is miserable.
So what I'll tell you is, if you take someone who goes onto a high-level team, who makes it onto a high-level team, there are some people who don't make selection for various reasons. There are some people who are mentally strong enough, maybe they're not intelligent enough. There are people who are physically strong enough, but they're not mentally strong enough, so they can't complete it. And there are people who weren't prepared for it. But if you take the people who actually make it, right? Now you take those people who are mentally capable. They're intelligent enough, they push hard enough, they have the right stuff mentally. I can't build the right stuff mentally into somebody. If the military could, every individual would be a special operations individual in the military, as far as what their training would look like, right? You can't build everybody to be that. But the ones who do, what I can do is I can give them, just like the more experience they have in combat, the more hardened they become, the more capable, the harder they are to kill, right? The more deployments, the more dangerous they become. I can give them more experiences and more output. So when he's used to pushing a weight for 5 minutes, he realizes, okay, I pushed 50-pound dumbbells for 5 minutes straight on flat dumbbell presses, right? That's my PR in the gym. Well, if your life's on the line, trust me, you can go farther, okay? But what he can start to do is feel how fast things are fatiguing, and he might go, okay, I have X amount of minutes before I have to get something done because I'm going to get in a bad way really quick. Because the thing is, he's used to 1 rep to 200 reps. He's used to 3 minutes to 5 minutes.
What I like about that too is that the time domains, just for a simple movement like a tricep extension, usually nobody has a point of reference on what that looks like. So they're not married psychologically to a number, and I think that's really important for tactical athletes as well, because a lot of things are out of their control. Yeah. Their nutrition is sometimes out of their control depending on where they're at. If you're in an austere environment, or even if you have to pull like a 24-hour shift or something, and you're not able to properly recover because you've been up all night. When I see those kind of things happening, so we'll have the tactical athletes come in, they're all beat up from a ruck they did earlier in the morning, and they come in and now they're like, we're supposed to be maxing out on the back squat. Yeah. That individual is not going to be maxing out on a back squat with me today. Instead, I'm going to give them a bar that they've never used. I'm going to change it up. I might even have them go to a different... If it was a free weight squat, I might have them go to a box squat to a depth they've never gone before. And I'm going to have them hold there at the bottom until I say that they can come up, until I'm finding the position that I want. And they're going to get a great workout. And, there's a lot of benchmarks we do as well. One of my favorites is, if we are having DT. I love DT. Great workout. Soldiers coming in, they're kind of beat up. They just came off a 24-hour shift. one, they should go home and fucking sleep, but they're not going to.
Yeah.
So I give them an axle bar. I give them an axle bar and I put 10 pounds on each side. And I say, hey, you're going to do DT, but you're going to do it on broken today.
Yep.
And they get fucking excited, you know what I mean? So it's like finding ways. This system allows so much variation, and if you care about the person that's in front of you, about making them better and not stroking your own ego, you'll find ways around that with all the variation that's available to make that person move for the day. And sometimes all they need is just to move.
Yeah, there's an answer for everything.
Yeah.
And and like I said, that's the thing. When you work with people in the military, you have to, one, give them the capabilities and abilities they need to work at the highest level, to have the best chance of coming home safe, keeping the people around them safe and healthy. That comes through in a couple ways. One, physically, give them the attributes, but also with the variation that we do, the variety that we do. Like some strength coaches out there say we have too much variety, right? I'm not even going to talk about that because that's been disproven by so much it's not even funny. But in the military,
so does
the
combat.
military
let's not prepare for
the military
variety.
is the exact combat is the exact perfect example of variance. There is nothing guaranteed. There is not one thing that's guaranteed to go the way that you think it's going to go, or like you might have X amount of kit. You're like, I can carry this forever, and one of your guys get hurt, and you guys have to divvy up some of his equipment and help him, get out of there or whatever. And now you're carrying more equipment than you expected. Like you're, in different situations. The weather conditions can vary so fast.
100%.
You weren't born in a desert,
Right.
right? So you look at a lot of our military members, like when you're talking Afghanistan, right? Like you can be in desert areas, you can be in mountains during the winter and be in snow, like.
And you have to train. And so this is another thing when it comes to variance too. And the military is very stuck on. Commanders are coming around to the idea that we don't have to do PT at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are still stuck on that idea, and I have actually convinced some units to start playing around with it.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, why don't you do a 3-week wave where you train at 6:30, and then let's do one where you come to work at 6:30, and then you go and you train at lunch, and then you get off.
Yeah.
Let's do another 3-week wave where we train in the evening right before, maybe at like 3:30, 4 p.m. And then you do your training, and that prepares those. But anecdotally, what I've seen with the commanders that are willing to do that, not too long ago they had this big thing, division week with the 82nd, and the commanders that were doing that, none of their soldiers became victims of heat casualties during these long duration events because they had been exposed to a lot of different variety inside of PT. If you're only doing the training at the same time every single day, you're not exposing those individuals to different temperatures. You're not exposing those individuals to different elements such as light, fatigue, right? There's people who really enjoy waking up and working out in the morning.
Some people hate it.
There's people who fucking hate it. There's people who really enjoy working out at night. There's people who hate it. You have to do both.
And the thing is, like, what you might find is, like, people when they first come in who maybe aren't going into, like, the special operations community, when they first come in, or you look at like, people going through basic and stuff like that, yes, they should probably get up really early in the morning and start early. Why? Because we're talking about discipline, and we're going to teach them what discipline is.
100%.
But then once we get outside of there, and you get the discipline that you need in the military, and you start going into higher level units, now it has to be 100% about. It's not about discipline because these guys are disciplined. Now it comes about what makes the person the most well-rounded, hardest person to deal with. Like what makes them the most dangerous person they can be, and the most capable person they can be, and keeps them safe and healthy.
Yeah, and you can have all of that variety with a structured template. The meaning, because these individuals have to work out, is required, you can in fact max them out every 100%. Monday.
Yep.
You can, in fact, do dynamic work with them every Tuesday.
Yep.
You can, in fact, work on a specialized skill, right, on a Wednesday. Yep. You can, in fact, do another dynamic effort on a Thursday. And you can, in fact, max them out on Friday. If you understand the variabilities of what's going on, you can easily pivot as a strength coach. And you're going to say, hey, Shane, I know you just came off a 24-hour shift. You're a little beat up. We're going to be maxing out bench today, but I want to try something with you. I'm going to put some hanging bands. I'm going to hang kettlebells on bands, and we're going to work up to like a 3-rep banded bench press today with the kettlebells hanging. You have no frame. You obviously have frame of reference. But if you were the soldier, you probably don't have a frame of reference there on what that looks like, and you're going to get a good heavy stimulus, which that's the purpose of a max effort. We're trying to introduce the heaviest stimulus possible so that individual can adapt at the highest rate. And if you're constantly changing those things out, and you're constantly changing the movement, hey, a squat is a squat, right? Not really. We put a different bar on your back, it changes the squat. We put your feet in a different position, it changes the squat. Like, so there's, and if we can wave those things out and get so much variance in that structure that those individuals are ready for anything.
Well, the thing is, like, this is a very common thing you hear about. They say that most people, like, if generically we're going to say you give them a rock walk. Most people are going to quit, collapse, when they think they're 100% done, but really they're at 50%.
Yes.
They don't realize there's another 50% there. So basically what Justin is saying is the way we lay out our programming, our accessory movements and all that stuff, and even our strength stuff, we set up things that they have no clue what they're capable on, and what you'll end up finding out is they'll do so much better because they can tap into a good percentage of that extra 50% without realizing, because they just don't want to look like a fool in front of everybody else. So they just, and weight doesn't really mean anything to them because they don't understand. Like, the first time you use band tension, if I put 100 pounds of band tension on a bar and you're going to bench and you're going to add weight on that, it makes it look like there's hardly any weight on the bar because there's already 100 pounds of band and 45 pounds for the bars, 145 pounds before you even add a plate on there.
Yeah.
So,
And then you pick that band up and you're shaking like a fucking leaf on a tree because you've never used it before.
Yeah. So it's like all you care about is output. Like, do the best you can. And you start thinking about, like, what do I do to, like, shoulder blades together? Like, you start to think of points of performance, and you don't want to be embarrassed, so you throw down. And then you do that for 5, 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 10, 9 weeks, however long, and then you bring them back to something they do know, and all of a sudden, boom, they hit a weight that's a PR, and that felt really light.
Yes.
And that was a 5-pound PR.
And that's what we're seeing right now, too. It's funny you say that because at a large scale, what we're seeing is individuals are doing that, and at the micro scale here at the gym, I have people who are veterans of that community hitting weights that they never thought was fucking possible, running distances at speeds they never thought was possible, and they're doing significantly less. People who are highly motivated to do don't need more shit to do. They just need to do the correct things with the correct intention, and they'll get more bang for the buck. I don't. PT is a large part of being the soldier, but it's also a small part of their day. So why would I fuck their whole day up with 1 hour of fitness? That 1 hour of fitness should instill confidence. It should instill esprit de corps. So there's a certain level of unit cohesion, maybe some competitiveness. I want to have some kind of unit goals board where we can look and I'm like, oh, Shane's got a fucking 500-pound deadlift. I'm going for 505. Fuck him. And then it builds a little competition.
Everything should be up there.
Everything should be up there. It should all be tracked. And the funny thing is like the Army does a pretty good job at tracking things. They like to track metrics like health metrics. They like to track your rifle scores. They even track their PT scores, but they're not tracking things that move the needle on any of those things. And anecdotally, what we're seeing is the units that have the most compliance to our program are increasing their readiness overall. They're increasing their ability to shoot without spending extra time on the range. They're increasing retention, meaning those individuals are sticking around longer because they're happy and their bodies aren't beat up. And again, there's going to be freak accidents that happen. Like I broke my back in 2 places, blew my hip out, blew both knees out, both ankles, pecs, shoulders, herniated up in the neck. Like there isn't something from head to toe that I haven't fucked up over my time, but it wasn't because of improper training necessarily. It was because like, hey, you get fucking blown up, you get fucked up. You break your back on a jump, it is what it is. Like, but there's a system and a process that brings those individuals back so that the unit can get the rate of return on that individual that they were promised.
If you look at the higher level you go in units, the more there's a pride within the unit, and the more there is a a respect from people outside of the unit, right? Like once people realize the reputation and what things have been accomplished and done. And the nice thing is this is a very minor version of that. In a gym, like if we use this system, at my gym, one thing I did for my power lifters is I put a thing on the wall. So we have powerlifters come in from 6 o'clock in the morning till coming in at 6 o'clock at night to start their workouts. Whoever hit the biggest, say whatever squat, bench, deadlift variation that day, they put their number on the board. And then every accessory is listed, including ab work, and then you put the name and the number or the reps or whatever the measurement is on the board. And if you're training at 6 in the morning, there's people coming in at 6 in the evening, it's had all day to get moved up. You got to throw down everything you can to try to make it to the end of the night. And if you're in one of these units and you kept getting your name up on top of that board, you're going to get a certain amount of respect for that. But it also creates that competition which is needed. The nice thing is, once they see that this is the best way to make improvement, everybody's going to start doing it, and then that kind of pride and appreciation builds greater because now everybody's leveling up. So that's one thing that's extremely important in a way that I think it would be great for the military and the way that we did at my gym with that. The other thing I just wanted to mention, one thing, and we should probably wrap it up here pretty quick, is that when we talk about like doing like say flat or inclined dumbbell presses or kickbacks, but let's just say flat dumbbell presses. There's times where I said we're going to do 5 minutes. I want to see who can go the heaviest weight for 5 minutes. The first time someone does that, everybody in the room grabs a weight that they feel is light because they're like, oh, this is going to be rough. I've never gone that long in my life. Yeah. And most of them still stop within a minute to two.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're not even, most of them are not even halfway.
Right.
And they'll even say like, I grabbed a weight I thought was really light. Oh, so you had no clue what you could do for 5 minutes.
Correct.
How does that make you hard to deal with? Because you had no clue? It's a person who knows exactly what they're capable, how long they can go, how quick they can go. Like they can make good tactical decisions because they know exactly what they're capable of. It's not guesswork. But you got to get enough variety, and you have to push them, and you got to do it in a manner to constantly build them. You know.
Yeah, and you know this system I think is very applicable to what they do. It's going to make them a more capable human. Mm-hmm. It's going to make them last longer, but also the ones who are doing it, they look good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They look fucking scary.
There's also some, presence is a real thing.
Yeah, when you have a bunch of dudes show up in a foreign country and they all look like fucking movie stars, like action movie stars, like that says something. That right there says, hey, we are not here to fuck around. Yeah. You drop off 3,000 people that all look like they could fucking cast in the next Schwarzenegger movie, and they can run. That's scary, right? And they can shoot well. That's
just look
scary.
At some of the PSYOPs things we did in Vietnam to make people scared of our soldiers. We can actually literally show them something. It doesn't have to be a PSYOP. Yeah. It's a real deal.
And like if people knew the type of individuals that we're producing here at this gym, like I said, thousands of operators. I have people who come back from Ranger School. Ranger School is a tough school for a lot of people. It's 62 days if you go straight through. I have a lot of guys that go 62 days straight through. Yeah. They don't recycle any phases. They come back unanimously every single time they come back. They're like, that was a fucking joke compared to what you put me through. And it's not that I tried to fuck them up. No. We gradually built them to a point where they started off and they were like, that's it. And all throughout the process, it was like, hey, that's it. That's it. But it was more and more and more. And then they get to Ranger School and they're like, that's it.
Well, this is their career. This is their career. This is their life. We want them to go through and be a standout because this can set the standard in the beginning of their career really taking off, and it can make a difference in what their career trajectory is too. We don't want someone who has to redo a bunch of things nonstop. Not saying that's bad, and I appreciate anybody who does and makes it eventually, because anybody who makes it, they made it. But you would much rather get through it one fell swoop one time than have to redo things.
Oh man, and you know, sure. I love when I can get them early too. When they're early in their career, young officers, young NCOs, and I can bring them into the fold and get them ready, because their impact is going to be far greater than anything that I could ever do inside the military. So if I can teach them the right way to train, and they can go and pay it forward. It's a downward, like it's a snowball like effect, right? And you know, we're seeing a lot of that happening now, and I'm really excited for the future of you know, what we're doing here with Conjugate and with the military, and you know, what Ben's doing with the military. He's making some really meaningful progress and it is going to make whoever decides to cross that line with the U.S. fucking regret every decision that they ever made leading up to that.
And every single job in the military is important. The more people you have on board with this, the more people who level up, the better everything gets across the board in the military.
100%.
So,
all right, let's wrap it there.
all right.
All right, I'm gonna bolt.